and welcome back to my channel. The end is near. The end of 2021, that is. We are entering 2022 with hopefully good intentions, good vibes, good horror movies, good horror in general, and it is a time of reflection. So I'm going to be reflecting on some of my favorite horror movies and TV from 2021. So let's get into it, shall we? So I actually didn't watch a ton of new horror movies this year. I tried my best. I still haven't seen Antlers. I still haven't seen Last Night in Soho, which those were my two most anticipated horror movies of the year, but I didn't feel like going to the theater to see them, so I didn't see them. But what I did see this year, I liked for the most part. The most notable is Saint Maude. I believe Saint Maude was filmed in 2020, but it was released here in 2021, like the start of 2021, and it was just an excellent way to kick off the new year. Religious horror is my jam, and this one is brilliantly done. This one centers around a young nurse who is experiencing some trauma and guilt and remorse for things that happened in her life, and she's very devotedly religious, and she believes that it is up to her to save her current patient who is essentially, she's basically dying. And Maude believes that she is communicating with God, she is speaking with him directly, and it's just a really moving story about a young woman's dedication, her devotion to God. She's devoted so much, she's basically blind to anything else. She takes things to an extreme level. It's very sad to watch this one person who is clearly suffering from being lonely, and she's just so determined to find her position in life and find that friendship in others that she is willing to do whatever it takes. Another movie that I watched this year from 2021 that I was actually pleasantly surprised by was Paranormal Activity Next of Kin. This wasn't a movie that was even on my radar, and then I just checked it out one day because it seemed like fun, and it was. It is a new entry in the Paranormal Activity series, and it's a standalone. It centers on a young woman who was adopted, and she learns that her birth mother was a part of this Amish community, and she goes to this community with a film crew, and she's documenting her experience, and she uncovers some dark secrets about this place. I thought that they did a great job at establishing this community and how there is something going on. There isn't a ton of paranormal activity, but there is this slow build up to something that you can just, you know it's coming. So there's this dread and apprehension throughout the film, and then when you finally get it, it is insane. It is off the charts bonkers, and I love it. Another movie that I was pleasantly surprised by this year is Silent Night. It is an apocalyptic Christmas horror movie starring Keira Knightley and Matthew Good as this couple who invites their college friends to their house for Christmas dinner, and it might be their last. It might be their last. And this one is really dark, bleak, and just sad. I was so sad watching this, but also it's darkly funny, so there was this great mixture of humor and sadness. I have never felt so many emotions in a horror movie. I was so moved by this, and it's not an easy watch. Trigger warnings, look up trigger warnings before you read this because the whole plot revolves around a specific thing that isn't so happy. This movie is depressing. It's depressing, but that's what the holidays are all about. A movie that I loved this year was The Deep House. This is a found footage horror movie. It involves two YouTubers, they're travel vloggers, and they're looking for their next viral video, and they learn about this lake that has stuff in it, and then they meet this strange man who says he knows a place where there is a perfectly preserved house underwater. So he takes them there and they go and explore, and it is creepy. Things underwater, ghosts running out of air, like things that are in water are so just disturbing to me automatically because water is scary. Things can go wrong just by being in water. But then when you add in other elements like going into places like a house that is perfectly preserved and weird, that just amps up the uneasiness for me. I just felt like I couldn't breathe this whole movie because these kinds of immersive experiences, they make me super uncomfortable. It reminded me of The Descent. I felt super claustrophobic watching these two people go deeper and deeper into this house and uncover these secrets. You just know that things aren't going to go right for them. I thought it was really fun. was super intense to me. I was on the edge of my seat. I think if you're afraid of water or you're super claustrophobic and you loved The Descent, you'll like this one. Another one that surprised me this year was the broadcast signal Intrusion. So this is centered on a video archivist who uncovers this mysterious videotape, and they don't know if the stuff that happened in it is real, but the stuff that's happening in it is pretty disturbing. It's a woman and she's wearing a creepy mask and she looks like she's in distress. And it's also following online groups like Reddit who were theorizing about it, and they're theorizing that the women in the video are related to a string of women who were found dead. They were murdered, and this man becomes obsessed with the legend, with the lore, and he dives deep into it and tries to uncover it. And I thought that it was a really interesting concept. I love the whole internet mystery aspect of it. It was very Max Headroom incident, and the story was just unsettling, and it was shot like a neo-noir crime thriller. I really enjoyed it for the most part. It kind of got a little convoluted for me towards the end, but the whole setup, I loved it. The next horror movie that surprised me this year was the Slumber Party Massacre remake. This one aired on Sci-Fi Channel. I had so much fun watching this movie because it was completely unexpected. So this is centered on a group of girls who are having a weekend getaway, and they are interrupted by a serial killer. This story is not what it seems. They subvert expectations, and it is so funny. What this movie does with social commentary about toxic masculinity and feminism, feminist themes, they explored those themes and delivered on those themes so well in such a way that it didn't feel like they were punching you in the face with it. They were playing with you, like you were in on the joke with them. So it was just clever. And I feel like this is what Black Christmas from 2019 or whatever the hell wanted to be. This did it right. This explored those themes perfectly. I think that it is a perfect remake, and it pays homage to the original in such a perfect way. I think they would be very happy with what they did with this. My favorite movie of 2021, and that is Malignant by James Wan. I loved this movie so much. So it centers around a young woman who's going through a lot, and then she starts experiencing these grisly visions of murders that are happening, and she doesn't know why, and she kind of gets wrapped up in this murder investigation, and it is bonkers. It is so insane, over the top, cheesy, stylish, bloody, violent. It was just everything I've ever wanted. It was just so much fun and chaotic. You could just tell that James Wan was having a blast with this movie, and it was like a love letter to the fans, and he was doing what he wanted to do. It is a camp fest for the ages, and I loved it. Another one that really surprised me this year is Sun, starring Halloween's Andi Matichak, I don't know how to say her name, but she plays a young mother. She is running from her past with her young son, and her past is catching up to her. So she goes on this really dark journey that is filled with paranoia and tension and suspense and culty stuff, and it was really good. It really surprised me. I thought Andi Matichak's performance was brilliant. I thought she was so believable as this mother, and she has so much heart and compassion, and I just truly believed that she was this kid's mother, and she was doing everything in her... Excuse me? I am doing a video, sir. She was doing everything in her heart to make sure that her kid was safe. The little gremlin has entered the party. Sir? Okay. Stay out. Get out of here. Another one I really liked this year was Candyman 2021. I thought this was the most visually stunning horror movie I have seen in a very long time. This is a sequel to the original Candyman, and it centers around a young man who he looks into the Candyman legend, and he gets more than he bargained for. There's just a lot of playing with buzzing sounds throughout and playing with light that is just done so well to tell the story, and then the ultimate message behind the film was really powerful, and I liked what they did to expand on the legend of Candyman. The way the film ends is setting it up for future installments, so I hope we do get that. Another movie that I really enjoyed was Things Heard and Not Seen, which was a Netflix movie that also surprised me. I was not expecting to like this one as much as I did, and I don't think a lot of people liked it, but it really reminded me of an old school horror movie set in a haunted house. Very reminiscent of movies like What Lies Beneath. It centers on a young woman and her husband who moved to a remote town, and she believes their house is haunted. And it's just, Amanda Seyfried is incredible in this. I have never cared for somebody as much as I cared for her character in this movie, because her husband is a piece of crap, and you're just rooting for her to be safe and to get out of this marriage. I think it highlights real life horrors of being stuck in a relationship that's not good for you and that is abusive and toxic, and also highlights supernatural horrors. I just really liked it. I thought it was a really slow burn mystery filled with dread and atmosphere, and I just thought it was good for what it was. Another favorite movie of 2021 for me is the Fear Street Trilogy, which was released on Netflix. This series, this trilogy, I view them all as one because you need to watch them back to back. They're all tell one complete story. I just loved them all. I thought they were so fun and surprisingly dark. The cast was great. The music was great. The colors, just like everything. It had that Stranger Things feel. I was just so excited to watch them back to back. I think my favorite one was 1978 because I love the summer camp setting. I love the actresses in it. I love that we're getting Fear Street and Goosebumps again, and I really hope that with the success of this Fear Street trilogy that there's more, because I think there's so many more stories to tell. Alright, and now I want to move into TV because I feel like that's what I spent most of my year doing, was watching a lot of TV. We were so spoiled with the TV, horror TV this year, and most notably, at the top of my favorite horror TV of 2021 is Midnight Mass. This show blew me away. By the first episode, I was hooked. Mike Flanagan really knows how to tell a story about a small town and create characters that you love and feel for, and you will listen to every single word they say, no matter how long their monologues are. So this is centered around a small island town whose lives are turned upside down when a mysterious priest arrives in town and starts performing miracles. And it's a lot more than that. There's a lot of dark stuff in this, and I loved the elements of religion and religious fanaticism throughout this, and how some people can weaponize their faith to get away with certain things. And I liked that there was also the exploration of addiction in this. I thought that the characters were just the best written characters I've ever, I just loved them so much. I fell in love with these characters, and I loved watching their arcs and their journeys, and I could watch them talk all day. People complained about the monologues, but I loved them. I think Mike Flanagan is an incredible writer, and he writes from the heart, and it shows, and these characters are incredible. I loved the show so much. Another show I am loving, because it's still going on, is Yellowjackets, which is currently on Showtime. This I would describe as a Lord of the Flies meets Lost with teenage girls. It is centered around a group of women who experienced a plane crash in their youth when they were traveling with their soccer team towards nationals. Their plane crashes somewhere in the wilderness, and they have to survive for 19 months. So you know immediately some dark stuff happened during these 19 months, but you don't know exactly what happened. And so these women are now adults, and they're reflecting back on the things that happened in their youth, and somebody is coming back to try to get something from them. It's not really clear. There's a lot of mystery. It's dark. The characters are just so compelling and endearing. I love Christina Ricci in this. She's on top of the game here. I am so happy to see her back because she's incredible, and she's playing a character we haven't seen her play. She's kind of a horrifying person, but she's also super likable. So it's just such an interesting thing to see, and she has a lot of interactions with Juliette Lewis's character, and I love their dynamic on this show. The cast is incredible in this, and I think that it is so good, and I am theorizing about things again. It reminds me of how I felt when True Detective came out. Like, each week I'm trying to figure out what's happening. I have all these theories, and that's just a fun feeling. I don't feel that a lot with shows anymore. So the week to week thing is working for me, but it's also killing me inside because I want to just binge it all. The next show I really enjoyed, or am enjoying, is Dexter New Blood. We're following Dexter years later, I think 10 years later, and he is living in this cold town, complete opposite of Miami, and he is living this new life, and his secrets from his old life come back to confront him, and he's still trying to live this fake life while also trying to push down his dark passenger, but it's not working very well, and there's another serial killer that's on the loose. It's just so much fun to see Dexter back being Dexter, his witty, sarcastic, arrogant self, and he's so funny. It's just funny trying to see him live in a normal way when he is so not normal, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I don't know where it's gonna go, but it's just a fun ride. Another show I really liked this year was Chapelwaite. So this was on Epix, and I don't think like anybody watched it because nobody talked about it, and this is based on the Stephen King story Jerusalem's Lot, which is featured in Night Shift, and Jerusalem's Lot is a prequel to Salem's Lot. So the show centers around a man who inherits this mansion from some relatives that he didn't really know very well, and then when he arrives in town, he realizes that his relatives were pretty much hated by everybody in town. So he dives deep into the history of his family, and he uncovers some dark things, and he gets wrapped up in some dark things. That's all I'm gonna say, but just know there's vampires. There is a relation to Salem's Lot, and it was just making me so giddy and excited to be back in that world again because I love Salem's Lot. And Adrian Brody is great. It's just super dark. The stuff that happens in this was really dark, and it made me like wince. Some of the deaths, it's violent and bloody. I really liked it. And another show that I really enjoyed in 2021 is Cruel Summer. So this is a more mystery crime show for young adults, and it centers around two girls who are living completely different lives, and one of them is really popular and one of them is not. She's a geek, and the popular girl goes missing, and the geek girl kind of takes her place, and then the popular girl returns, and she was in captivity. She was missing this whole time because she was kidnapped, and she claims that the geeky girl knew where she was and she didn't rescue her. She did it all so she could take her life. And it's just a really interesting story. It's filled with twists and revelations. It really explores trauma and abuse very well, grooming, and just it's very dark, and it's just filled with 90s nostalgia. It was just good all around. Another series I loved this year was Chucky. Chucky, it is the year of Chucky. Chucky, the TV series, follows a young boy who finds a Chucky doll at a yard sale, and Chucky starts messing with his life and the people around him. It's just filled with so much heart and humor. It is just endearing, and I love Chucky. I love that Chucky's back, and I love this new spin on it and the themes that the show revolves around. I just feel like they're doing a great job at reintroducing Chucky for a whole new generation, and that's what it's all about, is just introducing the next generation to some cool horror stuff that we grew up loving. And I love that Chucky is here for them, and I feel like he has been everywhere this year. He's been in Dunkin' Donuts. Somebody told me that Chucky was sitting in the passenger seat of the AAA guy's truck. He has been everywhere, and we love it. I love it. I love it. There you have it. That is everything I watched and loved in 2021. I am looking forward to 2022. I think we're gonna have an amazing year for horror. We already have a ton of stuff on the horizon that I'm really looking forward to. Please let me know what you enjoyed in 2021. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will catch you next year. Bye.